So hello and welcome, Dr. Eugene Christoph speaking, and today I want to record a short video about a theory. What is a theory, what is not a theory? And the reason I'm doing this are the coming Bachelor and Master thesis, where our students ask us about what is expected and what they have to do. And that is why I want to make a remark that if you are at a Bachelor or Master level, it is a presentation for you. If you are a doctoral level or higher, you might need a more, let's say, a deeper knowledge about what is a theory and what you will need for your thesis or for your academic paper. So in this presentation, I want to share with you what I think about theories. It is my vision, and please do clarify it with your supervisor. What is his or her vision about your theory and what you should use in your work? Coming to the presentation, so now it works. We mostly talk about the requirements regarding theory for a thesis as for our department, as for our university. So it can happen that at your university the requirements are different. That's why please clarify them in advance. And now I move on with the next slide. What is a theory? And I found several definitions for this one, and the first one is the one by Bacharach in 1989, who said a theory may be viewed as a system of constructs and variables in which the constructs are related to each other by propositions and the variables are related to each other by hypotheses. So as you see, Bacharach proposes to see a theory as a system of constructs and their relationships. There is a very general understanding of what is a theory, and let's be honest, there are still debates about what is a theory. And if you open up a strategic management organizational theory journal, you will see that there is a constant debate: what is a theory, what is not a theory, and what is theoretical contribution. So for a master and bachelor level, you don't need this deep understanding on what are the peculiarities of the recent discussions about what a theory, what is not. And we stay within this general understanding of what is a theory. The simplified answer to this question given by Crowley and Joya in 2011 is: a theory is a statement of concepts and their interrelationships that shows how or why a phenomenon occurs. So it is about the observation about a phenomenon and an explanation why this phenomenon came to life. Klein and Potosky wrote, theory provides a theoretical explanation of a phenomena, offering a unique explanation of what, why, how, who, where, and when a phenomenon occurs. So it is then not only about the phenomenon itself, but also about a set of variables and relationships between these variables and how they relate to the observed phenomenon. And finally, of course, I asked ChatGPT what ChatGPT thinks about what is a theory, and it told me that a theory is a well-substantiated explanation of some aspects of the natural world that is substantiated through empirical evidence and has stood up to scrutiny through testing and analysis. So it means, first of all, it is a system that has been tested, that shows empirical evidence, and that has been analyzed. It provides a systematic way of understanding and organizing a phenomenon. And if we think about what is a theory, then actually we have a different maturity levels of a theory. I call them 50 shades of gray. So that there are really theories that were referred to as theories, and it's usually a name stream of research that ended up with a clean and concise explanation of what, why, how, who, where, and when a phenomenon occurs. And the name of a theory is commonly used in literature without explaining what was meant by that. And the examples are the prospect theory, or the control-level theory of psychological distance, or the self-determination theory of motivation. We refer to these theories, and we immediately understand that in the event of the control-level theory of psychological distance, we talk about the 4 dimensions of psychological distance: the temporal, the social, the hypothetical, and what was the spatial. Or in the self-determination theory, that we talk about the feeling of autonomy, feeling of competence, and feeling of interrelatedness that lead to motivation. We don't even need to say that the self-determination theory comes from Veazey and Ryan and decades of their research. So we just use theories by name. And they are established, and you can find literature just reference to the name of the theory without explaining where it comes from. A bit weaker is a view. View is a predecessor of theory. And usually the views, they evolve, and over a certain number of years, let's say after 10 or 20 years, they may become a theory. A view indicates that the research stream is mature, yet there are some disagreements. And maybe there are even spin-offs, where you can see that different research streams appeared as a spin-off from the focal research stream. A good example could be the resource-based view. It still hasn't become a theory, although in 2011 Barney suggested that we start calling it a theory, but nobody did, and we still call it the resource-based view. There are still some misconceptions. We have a spin-off, I think the knowledge-based view, the capabilities-based view, dynamic capabilities view, that all try to address the weaknesses of the resource-based view. So the resource-based view is still not mature, it's not a theory, but it is a view. The next level, as I would see it, is a theoretical model. It is a simplified representation of a certain relationship. And the model can lack empirical support or be too simple to reflect all aspects of theory or a view, all aspects that a theory or a view needs. An example could be job demands and resources model. It is still a model, it is not a theory, or the technology acceptance model. Technology acceptance model is often used as a theory, but actually it is still just a model, and I think we like to use it in the information systems community just because it is one of the few theories that have been developed initially in the information systems community. Then we have also, the presentation crashed down, just a second. So I restored the presentation. I don't know why, it happens the last 2 weeks pretty often to me. But anyway, we have also other things that are related to theory, and the next that we know is a framework. And the framework can be used in two meanings. The first one, it can mean the same as theory, like theoretical framework. And we can also say, for example, the resource-based framework, or the framework of self-determination theory, or the framework of dynamic capabilities, and usually we mean the dynamic capabilities view or capability-based view. But framework can also mean something different, like a guideline, toolkit, a summary. And a good example would be 5 Forces framework by Porter. It is not a theory, it has no relation to theory. The 5 Forces framework is actually can be rooted to different theories, like a market-based view and resource-based view, because at least some pieces of information, some parts of the 5 Forces framework are well explained by different theories. But it is just a toolkit, a way, a guideline, how you should analyze your market in order to understand where you can get to a competitive advantage. And finally, what we often see in literature is a notion. A notion is a general understanding, a concept, basic description of certain relationships, and it rather refers to an idea but indicates that there is some research behind this idea. Example could be the notion of managerial cognitive capabilities by Petrov and colleagues. It is a concept, it even involves some relationships there. What are the components of the managerial cognitive capabilities? And it is not a theory, but it is very close to it. Let's say it's approximating of becoming a view or becoming a model. And another example could be the notion of signaling in behavioral economics, for instance, and there are different theories that can then work with this notion of signaling. And of course, the question comes, what is sufficient for your theories? And here, be aware that different supervisors might have different expectations and requirements. If you plan to write your theories with me, then I would expect that you have the view or a theory or a model that you want to work with. I think that the toolkit, like 5 Forces framework, is not sufficient to be tackled within a master thesis, because anyway you will have to explain what you are investigating, why the threat of entry is higher at this market than the other one. And this why is actually the theory, something that is lacking in this toolkit. With the notion the same, if you make a qualitative research, then probably you can expand the notion, you can understand it better. And then the notion, or even maybe even the toolkit would be sufficient, that you go deep and try to find out something we didn't know about this toolkit, or we didn't know about this notion. Maybe there is a different additional capability that the managers should have that should also belong to the notion of managerial cognitive capabilities. But for quantitative research, I would expect a relationship, and for a relationship you need a why, you need a how. So you'll need several concepts that relate, and within a notion or within a toolkit, they are usually not present. That is why please clarify with your supervisor what is sufficient, what is not sufficient. What students often do, they refer to theorizing as a theory, but theorizing is not a theory. theorizing is just a process of argumentation. In academic papers, you often find theorizing when scholars explain how they came up with a finding or a notion, or when they explain something they have observed, or they explain how they implemented a certain theory. You can refer to this as theorizing, but you cannot refer to this as a theory because it's just an argument, maybe one of the ideas and so on. And students also develop their arguments, they theorize. That's why in your thesis you will theorize about something. It is not a theory, it is theorizing. A theory is a result of years of research incorporating theorizing about findings and their reasons and consequences. So theorizing is related to theory, but it is not a theory. That is why if you find an interesting statement in a paper, you can refer to it as a notion by or a suggestion of, but not as a theory of, because it may not be a theory, it can be only a suggestion, it can be only an idea. What we expect from your work is actually we expect that your work, Bachelor and Master thesis, will make a theoretical contribution. For the Bachelor thesis, we expect a minor contribution, maybe even just a replication of a study, and for the Master thesis, we expect that you find something that we didn't know, something that is new to us. And I found a paper by Witten, 1989, where the author explained what are the essential elements of the theory. And he said these are the 4 elements. First is the what. Which factors, variables, constructs, or concepts logically should be considered as part of the explanation of the social or individual phenomena of interest. So it is the what. What are the constituent part of what you are investigating? The second one is how. Having identified a set of factors, the researcher's next question is, so you have found that there are 2 things in this relationship, A and B, but what is the relationship? Will A increase B? Will B increase A? Will A increase B under condition of C, and so on? These are the hows that you should, or that a theory should have. Why? What are the underlying psychological, economic, or social dynamics that justify this selection? The selected factors and their causal relationships. And in the field of management, you often hear about the micro-foundations. Micro-foundations is nothing but this mechanism that explain something. And finally, he said this is the 4th level, is the who, where, and when. The conditions that place limitations on the proposition. So under certain conditions, it might not work. So the observed phenomenon will work, or observed relationship will work, but only for certain people. And that is why you need to look about who is involved and whether this will hold for males and females, or for different countries, for different cultures, and so on. The theoretical contribution is not about creating all of these 4 things. It's actually about taking a theory, knowing what are the what, how, why, who, where, and when in this theory, and improving it. Improve something that already exists. Make a small improvement, and this is exactly what we need, the smallest one, the minor one. And by the way, this will bring the biggest impact of your research. Don't try to explain the whole world, try to focus on small, for example, how. For instance, we assume that job demands increase burnout. But what if the relationship is a bit different? What is job demands increase burnout, but burnout increases how we, or changes our perception of the job demands, and things that were annoying become even more annoying. So they even increase the burnout even further. So we have a vicious cycle. We have an iterative process. Nobody has written about it. Assumedly, of course somebody did, but just as an example. And this idea that you can investigate the how, the relationship between the concept within your theory can be a bit different, is already great contribution. If you find this iterative nature and find a way how to test it, it is just great. In order to help you, I want to give you some heuristics, and before I give you a heuristic, I want to explain what it is. A heuristic is a mental shortcut. It's a kind of rule of thumb. Usually, heuristics help us cope with complexity of a situation and make fast and frugal decisions. And heuristics, their oversimplification, it means the mistakes can occur, so beware the enemies of the hare. The chamber of secrets has been opened. Indeed, if you think about heuristic, it is something what you will need, because the complexity of a theory, what is a theory, what is theorizing, what is a big debate, academic debate, is still ongoing. And for the limited time frame that you have for your thesis, and you will probably have about 3 to 6 months, including your data collection, data analysis, so for theory you won't have so much time. I suggested to reduce the level of complexity, and I can hopefully help you with finding a good theory in a short period of time. For this reason, I want to provide you with a set of heuristics, actually only 3, the simple rules of thumb that if you apply them, you may succeed. And the first one is that theories have names. That is why if you find a theory that has a name, it is a very good indicator. If you found somebody referring to prospect theory or market-based theory, or if you find several papers that refer to a certain theory like self-determination theory, it is a very good sign. It means the theory has most probably been established, and it has a name, and it is very good, especially if you have the word theory in the name. If you have the resource-based view, again, for me, it is almost the same with the theory. It's absolutely fine. If you find a model with a name, it's also perfect. That's why this is the first heuristic I'm going to give you. The second one, theories have history. And if you find a theory that is claimed to be a theory that appeared after a single study, then most likely the author is just a bit too fast claiming that it is a theory. That is why theories have a history, and if you look at the suggestion of Barney in 1991, where he postulated a resource-based view, it was rooted in the works of Werner Felt and Rummels that were 20 years before. And in 2011, Barney suggested that we called it a resource-based theory that already encountered, I don't think, about 30 years of research in this field. That is why mostly you have decades of research that will end up in a theory, usually. And think of the resource-based theory Barney suggested, but nobody picked it up. And we still use the resource-based view because I think many people see that there are some inconsistencies and we need a better formulation and the higher level of maturity of the view in order it to become a theory. And the third suggestion or heuristic that I give you is you will fall in love with your theory. It's very simple. You have your experience, you have your intuition, and this intuition is, by the way, driven by your experience, by your gathered knowledge, so the papers you have read, your observations, the situation that you observe. And if you read through theories and find one that is a kind of maybe not so fitting, just drop it. Because your intuition already tells you it is not what you're looking for. But if you find the theory, you all of a sudden understand that it is exactly what you need. And you won't even know why. You will just stick to this theory and you will continue with this theory. And by the way, it is not good. It's good that you read about different theories and views, but as soon as you have this feeling, I have the one theory, this is exactly what I want to explain, this is exactly the two-factor theory of motivation by Herzberg, or the self-determination theory by Diesenrein, then probably you are on the good way. A few more comments. First of all, we have exceptions from this rules of thumb. I told you that heuristics have also, they're prone to mistakes. And for instance, the dual process theory is actually not a theory, it's a collection of theories. That is why if you find a dual process theory, you always have to refer which one do you mean. The one by Epstein, the one by Evans, or the other ones. The work by Stanovich and West in 2000 make a good overview that there are different dual process theories. They all have the idea of dual processes, or these two processes of thinking, like Karman Tversky also did, but they have a bit different understanding or a bit different conceptualization of what is system 1 and what is system 2 thinking. Another exception that I found so fast was the theory of constraints. It is not a theory at all. It comes from the book of Leah Goldratt, who wrote a book, The Goal, and The Goal 2, and The Goal 3. And he's a consultant who suggested that he developed the theory of constraints, but actually it is not a theory, just a toolkit, and the things that he described that are so unique to this theory are, or have already been well captured by the system theory or modern system theory or by the QN theory. Then we have the TRIS, which is the theory of inventive problem solving. It comes from the Russian. It was the Professor Altschule who developed his idea. This theory comes originally from engineering. Now it is a consulting tool or toolkit. And actually it is just a creativity tool. And if you look at it, especially now in the social sciences, it's almost not applicable or applicable only as a creativity tool. At least I don't see any reason why it should be considered as a theory, so just a toolkit. That's why pay attention. It has theory name. It can be referred to by other people, but it's just a toolkit. Where Kotter's 8-step change model is called a model, but actually it's just a structure, a guideline. You have the 8 steps, but you lack what, why, and how. You have who and where, but you lack the key things that we need for a theory. That is why it is not a theory. Can you work with it in a thesis? Yes, if you add something theoretical to it. For example, if you explain why people have a problem with moving from step 1 to step 2, or what are the moderators, the impacting factors that will help people accept the step 3, and so on. Now, how many theories to use? A question from my students, and my simple answer is 1. If it's possible, use the one theory. You will have consistency of work. You will not be inconsistent. I give you an example of a student of mine who wrote about burnout. And in burnout, there are like there are many streams, but we're focused now on 2 now. The first suggests that burnout goes at odds with the motivation. You have either motivation or burnout. The other one suggests that you can have both and actually can run highly motivated into burnout. And there are really different papers that support either the one or the other view. And I told my student that he has either to focus on the one of this view or he has to describe both of them and explain how they relate. He decided to go for the second option, and I think he succeeded. It was really good. But the consistency of work, the first version, when he started working on theory, I noticed it was just inconsistent work, because he referred within the same frame of the job demands and resources model, there are different streams of work. That's why be aware. Different theories describe the same phenomenon. For example, motivation can be addressed by plenty of theories like two-factor theory or the self-determination theory. Just pick one that you like more, the one with which you have fallen in love. And many theories are incompatible or incommensurable. We call it the commensurability of paradigms. I'm going to talk about it by the next slide. But if I have here a nice picture of Einstein, you might think about relativity theory, you might think about string theory and the quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics and string theory, they are incompatible, they are incommensurable. The second option, using two theories as a contrast. For example, you say that theory A says this and theory B opposes this argument. And in my work, I test which of these theories holds. This is an appropriate approach, interesting to know, but already a bit dangerous exactly because of this commensurability of paradigms issue that we're going to talk in the next slide. You can use two theories to expand one of them that I usually do not recommend to do, because here the issue of compatibility is the highest one and the chances that you succeed are the lowest one. That is why if you write your bachelor or master thesis, I would avoid this option. Although it is still possible. You can discover a small but new aspect by uniting the two theories. It is possible, but even the top researchers seldom start with these two theories and trying to reconcile them. And the papers on reconciliation of different views, reconciliation of different theories are the hardest one to publish. And believe me, I'm working on one now, and we tried to work on different before. And these are the papers that, even though well supported, are very hard to publish. So what are the theories incommensurability? And I found the definition, what is commensurable, and it means having common measure or corresponding in size, extent, amount, and degree. And in the event of theories, we talk about the basic assumptions of the theory. And theories have assumptions, and sometimes if assumptions do not fit, you cannot use them anymore. The example could be, what are the individuals? Are they rational or boundedly rational? If you take the classical economic theory, individuals are rational. If you take the behavioral theory of the firm, or if you take the behavioral economics, then the individuals are boundedly rational. You cannot combine them because you will make suggestions that may contradict each other, because the same word individual will be understood differently. That is why you have to really take care that you don't combine these two theories. Another example, is heuristic a bias or is it fast and frugal tool of the mind? And Kahneman and Tversky and their followers would suggest that heuristic is a bias, and Gigerenzer and his followers would say it is a fast and frugal tool for your mind to help you cope with the complexity. Based on this one, just the use of the word heuristic will be understood differently. For some it would have a negative connotation, for some it would have a positive connotation. And they also would refer to different research and different findings. The other example that I know of the assumptions is whether the theory is equilibrium-oriented or non-equilibrium-oriented. And it means the mechanics of the theory is different. For instance, the equilibrium-oriented theories are the neoclassical theories of economics, where you have the supply and demand and they have to balance. If supply is high, the demand has to respond. The non-equilibrium oriented theories are most in the field of psychology, as far as I know. So, or now the behavioral theory of the firm would also work. If there is a low control level thinking, so you have to think concretely, it doesn't have to be compensated by abstract thinking. You can mostly think concretely, you can mostly think abstractly, you can switch between these two levels, and they don't have to be outbalanced. That is why being equilibrium oriented or non-equilibrium oriented is a huge difference, because it will also explain why people, for example, will engage in certain relationships. Maybe they will not just because they don't have to respond with a demand to supply just because they are non-equilibrium oriented theory. A system can be growth oriented. Most of the theories that we have are about getting profits and so on, but they can be also oriented towards maintaining the current state of the system. An example would be sustainability of the use of natural resources. We wouldn't have to grow, actually. We have to remain constant or even to decline in our growth to reduce the usage of natural resources. That is why it's very hard to address, for instance, the issues of sustainability with the neoclassical theory. You can do it, it will just sound a bit differently, you have to argue in a different way, and the logic will be different. And the same with sustainability issues, what we often have in Austria and Germany when people think about, but it's good if we don't grow and so on, it's very hard to explain. Why is it good? It is good because if you think in this frame, but if you go to other people who have a different way of thinking, who think in profits-oriented actions, they will not understand you at all. And finally, if theories have a different vision regarding these or many other assumptions, there are many other assumptions, by the way, please check, you cannot combine them. That is why I recommend that you work with one theory and you avoid even comparing or contrasting two theories just because they may have a different explanation for the same phenomenon because they have a different nature and different assumptions. And one thing that my students ask me, okay, what shall I do? I found now a good paper, very interesting suggestions, but it comes from a different field of study. For instance, with my doctoral student, we investigate social identity. We investigate identity, and there are a bunch of theories about identity. One of them is social identity theory, and the second one is the identity theory. And if you find a paper in a social identity theory, but you actually work with identity theory, can you use it? Shall you ignore it? And no. You can refer to the findings. The findings are objective. The findings are here. The findings are something that we have. They have no relation to theory. You have observed something. You made an experiment to make a question and you found a relationship. What kind of theory it is? It is a subjective explanation. It is rejecting or supporting different theories made by the researcher. So they have found some, said, okay, I think we rejected the social identity theory, or we supported something from the social identity theory. But the same finding can be applied to many other theories, and very often sociologists refer to psychological experiments, not to psychological theories, to psychological experiments to explain their notions, their ideas, their hypotheses by the findings, because the findings are objective. That is why you can refer to findings only. In this way, you stay within your theoretical framework, but you can incorporate important information, so feel free to do it. One more suggestion, try to refer to good papers. It means well-cited papers in good journals. It means the ranked journals. I would suggest that you go for A and B journals in BHB or 3-4-star journals in ABS. You can take any journal as long as it's a peer-reviewed journal, but the chances that your finding is correct and the theory or operationalization will hold, they will be higher. As an example, I had a contact with a student who had issue with statistics regarding discriminant and convergent validity of a questionnaire. We had jointly looked at statistics, and indeed it was a problem. It had low model fit, it had huge discriminants, validity issues, and so on. So I asked her, where do you have this questionnaire from? And she gave me the journal. It was a bad journal, and it was, let's say, not the best paper. And the statistics in this journal was also bad. So I saw that they also had discriminant and convergent validity issues. Just this journal published this paper, and a high-level journal wouldn't have published it. So I told her that you made a great job. Actually, you perfectly replicated the bad research model or the bad research tool. The problem is, of course, that on the one hand side, it's good that she made a perfect replication of something. On the other hand side, she could not use these items in her research just because the discriminants validity issue would not allow them to use them rigorously, to use them correctly. That is why save your nerves, save your time, search for good journals and you will find, let's say, stronger theories and better results that you can refer to. But again, you can use any of them, but just be aware it can happen that you will refer to a finding that you will not be able to replicate. And finally, I want to share with you a suggestion that I learned, an idea that I learned at the Academy of Management 2 years ago. I call it the Top Gun approach to theory. And I think it comes from the experimentals workshop there. So best greetings to the experimentalists. They said that if you want to be clean and concise with the theory, then you have to have 3 levels of argumentation, and you should be able to depict them. The first level is the theory. So what is the theory saying? And in our event, this is from our paper, System 1 managerial cognition has impact on performance, and this performance is moderated by affective states. This is just the theoretical ideas behind it. Now we come to hypothesis, something very precise that is a part of our theorizing. We said that this System 1 managerial cognition can be, in our event, is about the experiential analytic skill, the skill that a manager develops based on his or her experiential learning. And it is come by the way from the, I think, from Epstein and his system theory, his dual system theory, dual process theory. And this one will have impact on the fast pattern recognition, because performance can be measured differently. And in our event was about the managers being able to recognize patterns. And this recognition capability or recognition process will be shifted by the anger or fear state. And that is why we had 2 hypotheses, the one for the direct impact and the second one for the moderation. And finally, you should be able to depict how you want to operationalize it. In our event, we made an experiment where we had the baseline performance and the points that we measured, stage 1. Then we had the autobiographical emotion memory task. And then we had a task performance that we measured by money in a stage 3. So you don't know the details of the experiment, but if you're interested, let me know. I think we had it as a conference paper. We are still working on it to publish it. But if you manage to do it, by the way, it's very hard to do, even for the professional researchers and especially for the students who cannot differentiate between the theory, hypothesis, and operationalization. But if you manage to do it, it's a kind of top kind level, being one of the top in your abilities to work with theories. So I hope it was interesting and useful, and I hope you have now an understanding what is a theory, what is a theoretical contribution, what is sufficient for your Bachelor and Master thesis, and the simple rules of thumb that will help you understand that you have found the theory. Again, as a short reminder, don't forget to contact your supervisor to know what she or he is expecting from you, because everybody would have his or her own expectations and requirements regarding your thesis. And also stick to the guidelines of your university. It can happen that your university has some specific guidelines. With this in mind, I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.